say you are listening to, you are absolutely listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you. It is good to be alive, and here we sit in the midst of Sandy, or Sandy in the midst of us. I'm not sure who's who. But we have the wind outside howling, the rain pounding, the surf smashing, and all those things that go along with a hurricane. And this one sure is a doozy. And we send our prayers and our best wishes to all of us and all of those that are smack dab in the middle of this thing, this monstrous storm. To our friends down the street, around the corner, across America, and around the world, you're listening to the George Espinlove Show. And as long as we have the power on, she flickers now and then. Thus far, we've been very fortunate. But as long as she stays on, the internet service stays up, we will continue to broadcast live from the Funny Farm. We have one of the most interesting topics of a lifetime. And I'll be introducing our guest in just a second. We want you to sit back, prop your feet up, and listen. Listen very carefully. Whether you were of age to understand what was happening in 1963, excuse me, or you were born later, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy was one of the most catastrophic things that our nation has ever faced. And it seems that with all these years that have passed, there are still more questions than answers. We have a man with us tonight by the name of Jack Duffy. Jack, are you there?
I'm here.
Good. In the midst of the storm, you are here to tell us about your book, to discuss the assassination of, JFK. And I told our listeners, whether they were old enough to understand or they came along later, it's one of the most intriguing, catastrophic events that has ever struck our nation. And even today, with all the years gone by, there seems to be more questions than answers. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, so on and so forth, sir?
Sure, George. I'm a native Texan. I was born and raised here. My family moved to Fort Worth, Texas in 1960, and I've lived in Fort Worth ever since then. I got interested in the Kennedy assassination around 1970 when I was in high school. I'll get into that a little bit later, but as far as my background is concerned, I went to undergraduate school at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, got a degree in political science. Then I went to Baylor University in Waco and got an MBA in accounting, and then worked for a little while, and then I went back to law school in Houston at South Texas College of Law and received my JD degree in 1988, and ever since then I've been a practicing attorney here in Fort Worth, specializing in personal injury trial work and some criminal defense and some family law. So that's a brief description of my background.
So you're an attorney out of Texas, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Excuse me. Whatever. How did you ever come up with the way that you approached this book, as far as going back in a time machine? I thought that was really neat. How did you come up with that?
Well, first of all, talked with some people about time travel. One of them was a professor that teaches physics at the University of Connecticut, and he actually told me that he thinks time travel will be something that could be possible before the end of this century. And I always had the idea of, if I could go back in time to witness one event or to see what happened on the one event, one of the key events that most people would like to see what happened is the Kennedy assassination, because of all the controversy surrounding it to this day about what actually happened and who really killed the president. So that's what got me started on the idea of time travel. And then, of course, my interest in the assassination was already there, and so I just combined them into a book and went from there.
I can't tell you the amount, excuse me, the amount of books, the articles, so on and so forth that I've read throughout my life about the assassination. In the beginning of the book, or in the foreword, somewhere up front, you wrote that everyone that was here when it took place can tell you where they were and what they were doing.
That's exactly right.
I was a sophomore in high school when this happened, and I remember the principal coming over the public address system and telling us that President Kennedy had been shot and killed in Dallas, Texas. I can still see the people, the kid that sat in front of me, the girl that sat behind me, the boy that sat beside me on the left, and the girl that was sitting on the right. And I can still see the classroom as if it was just an hour ago. So it left an indelible mark on my mind, as well as millions of other Americans that was alive when it happened. I think, and this is just my opinion, by reading all the books and the articles and such things on the History Channel and the Discovery Channel and so on and so forth, I have always been convinced that this was a conspiracy. But there seemed to be so much confusion that caused so much diversion that we ended up with no answers. Do you feel that is somewhat what took place?
Yes. Over the years, more and more information has come out about what might have happened, what likely could have happened. You just have to put it all together. It's a big jigsaw puzzle. There was a lot of pieces still missing. I don't know if the truth will ever really come out on this. There's a chance it might. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not, but of course, part of the premise of my book is that the truth doesn't come out until 100 years after it's over with, which could very well be the case here, unfortunately. Yes, I mean, the evidence is so overwhelming, in my opinion, that there had to be a conspiracy that it's not even something to debate anymore. I know people like Bill O'Reilly, who just wrote a recent book on the assassination, and other people, they still apparently believe the fairy tale of the one gunman, which, that can be demolished easily with hard evidence by anybody who's studied this case. So, I mean, I like to spend the next 35 minutes, talking about all that, all the evidence that overwhelmingly proves that there had to be more than one gunman.
There is a, I wonder, after all these years, why? And I don't know if you have the answer or anyone has the answer, but you would think after all these years, somebody, somewhere, would have said something or left something that would have told us the complete story.
Well, people did say something about it, and they all ended up dead. And we can go into that, too, in more detail.
Yeah, they're the fellows and the ladies that had the mysterious deaths.
Yes. And many of those, I don't know if you're aware, but there was a statistical study done by a fellow in California on the people who died that were connected to the assassination, and what he came up with is so overwhelmingly stunning that you just can't ignore it. He found out that he studied like 78 people who died who were connected with the assassination in some form or fashion, and he found out that 37% of those people died by being murdered, 23% died by alleged suicide, and the rest died by accident or natural causes. Then he compared it with the rest of the population of the United States, and he found in the United States as a whole, it's just the opposite. Only like 1% are murdered, only like 1% commit suicide, and 89% die of old age or disease or accident, and the rest die of some other way. But when you look at that alone, if nothing else proves conspiracy, that would prove it, because how do you explain the statistics so far off the charts from the normal death rates in the United States as a whole? you just can't explain 37% of people being murdered unless there's some kind of foul play going on.
Before we go any further, tell us where we could buy the book. And
The book is available on Amazon. It's also available through my publisher, HatePublishing.com. I have more information about it on my website, which is themanfrom2063.com. There's a lot of information about the assassination on that website, too. So Barnes & Noble, I believe, also has the book available in their stores, so that's where they can get the book.
So it's themanfrom2063.com.
Yes, that's the website.
And that's the name of the book, The Man from 2063. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really want an intriguing read, I'll guarantee you that once you start reading this, they're going to have to pry you up, whether it's to go somewhere or do something. They're going to have to pry you from your seat because it gets your attention. I think it's a great book, Jack. It's one of the best ones that I've read so far. So we can get it at themanfrom2063.com, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Some of the witnesses that you had talked to, and I was wondering, because you hear very little about her, and that's Oswald's wife.
Yes, Marina.
Yes. What was she like?
She was a very fascinating lady to speak with. I talked with her for about an hour, and, of course, she's convinced after almost 50 years that Lee Harvey Oswald was totally innocent of the shooting. She does not believe that he killed the president anymore. At first, she thought so when it first happened, because that's what everybody was told by the media and the government. But she's wised up over the years, like a lot of other people, and she's convinced now that he was just what he said he was, and he said he was a patsy on November 22nd, 1963. It was very interesting talking to her for about an hour. She had a lot of interesting things to say.
Didn't they have one or two children at the time this happened?
I believe she has two daughters by Lee Harvey Oswald, and I think she had a son by her other husband that she married.
Does anyone keep track of her daughter?
I haven't kept track of her family. Like I said, I've only met her one time, so I know she lives in Rockwall, I believe, with her current husband. She doesn't get on the media too much anymore. She doesn't like to be interviewed on it, but she was nice enough to talk with me for a while, which I appreciated.
What were some of the other, or who were some of the other witnesses that you were able to...
Well, I talked with Jean Hill. Unfortunately, she's passed away, but she's the lady who was in the red raincoat and who's standing in the Zapruder film facing the grassy knoll when he was killed. And Jean told me point blank that she was convinced, and has always been convinced, that the fatal shot that killed John F. Kennedy came from behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll, because she was facing at the knoll when the shot was fired. She saw the flash of the gun go off, and she ran up there to try to catch the person, and as well as dozens of other people who ran up there. And she was confronted and put in a chokehold by a person who said he was an FBI or Secret Service guy. So, and over the years, she received many phone calls, death threats, threatening that she would be killed if she kept talking about this after what she had seen that day. So she was a very brave woman, and I found her to be very, very credible. In fact, she told our inspector when he interviewed her for the Warren Commission that the shots had come from the grassy knoll as well from the book depository. So this isn't like she just made this up over the years to cash in on it or make money off this thing.
Did you ever come across, or did you ever hear of a mute man that saw the whole thing happening from the overpass?
Mr. Hoffman, is that who you're talking about?
I can't remember his name. I just remember that.
Ed Hoffman. Yes, I did meet him. He was a deaf mute. I didn't get to talk to him. He was at a book signing event, but I did introduce myself to him. I'm aware of what he said, though. He was standing nearby the area where Kennedy was killed, according to what I've read, and he observed Kennedy's head wound as the limousine went underneath the overpass, because he was standing right near the overpass. And he said, or told his father, through the interpreter, that the back of Kennedy's head had been blown out by the bullet, which means the bullet came from the front, not from the rear. I wish I'd had more time to really talk to him, but I just didn't get a chance to. I also talked with Bill Newman, who still lives in Plano, Texas today, and he's a great guy. He was standing with his family near the curb when the president was killed. He saw the whole thing, and he told me that there's no doubt in his mind that the fatal shot that killed John F. Kennedy came from the picket fence, and the grassy knoll was just right behind him, because he said the bullet came right over him, and he could tell where the shot had come from, and they hit the dirt because they were right in the line of fire. I spoke with Mary Mormon, who took the famous photo of the assassination she took the only known photo that shows the grassy knoll at the moment of the headshot. And although she wasn't really positive, she tended to think that there might have been a shot that had come from up there. I talked to Beverly Oliver, who was an eyewitness. She also said the shot came from the grassy knoll. Abraham Zapruder, who took the famous film, told the authorities that day that the shot had come from over behind the knoll, and that he was standing right by filming the assassination. Sam Holland, who I never got a chance to meet, but he was a key witness who was standing on the overpass. He told several researchers in the 60s that he saw the fatal shot come from the knoll, saw the gun smoke come off the knoll, and ran back there and saw muddy footprints where the person had been standing in the exact spot where he'd seen the smoke films come off the knoll. So there's many, many witnesses. There were over 50 eyewitnesses who said there was a shot that came from the grassy knoll.
What about the doctors? I find that very interesting when I read about the doctors.
Yes, if you have nothing else to prove a conspiracy, all you need is the medical doctors in Dallas, because they overwhelmingly prove this. I've talked to two of them myself. I wish I could have met the other ones, but unfortunately so many of them have died over the years. But I've seen interviews, videotaped interviews with all of them that were made in the 70s while they were all alive. The two that I spoke with in person were Dr. Robert McClellan, who's a fantastic doctor. He still lives in Dallas to this day, and Dr. Charles Crenshaw, who was the subject of a book that became controversial called JFK Conspiracy of Silence. Dr. Crenshaw knew my father in Fort Worth. My dad was a physician here for many years, and he knew my father personally, so I met him too. Both of these doctors told me without any doubt that the fatal shot, in their opinion, had to have come from in front of the limousine, not from Oswald, because they said they saw the head wound clearly when they were working on the president in the operating room at Parkland Hospital, and they observed the back of his head and the entire, there was a huge exit wound in the back of the president's head where the bullet had come in from the front and blown the back of the head out. And, in fact, every doctor who observed this wound, they all agreed with it. The nurses agreed with it. I mean, all of them said that there was an exit wound in the rear of the head. So you've got 22 medical personnel who are surgeons. Most of whom, if not all of them, agreed that there had to be a frontal shot that killed the president. The autopsy photos, which I've seen from a friend of mine, who I won't name on the air, but he was on the committee, and he got a hold of the autopsy pictures. The autopsy pictures have been shown to these doctors, and they all verify that what's shown in the pictures is accurate, that the back of the head is blown away, and that's what the pictures show. So, I mean, if you have nothing else, that alone proves a frontal shot.
Is it true that there's some of those pictures missing?
Autopsy pictures? Yes, it is true.
And the autopsy, the man that was going to do the autopsy there at Parkland Hospital.
Dr. Rose?
Yes. In your book, you said that they was taking JFK out. Excuse me. And he tried to stop him because the autopsy had to be performed in Dallas.
Yes, that is very true. That's not made up. Dr. McClellan told me that they were trying to take the president's body out and get to Washington, D.C., and Dr. Rose stood in front of them and blocked their way and told them they couldn't take the body out without him doing the autopsy there. He was one of the top forensic pathologists in the country at the time. And he said, the law at the time it was not a federal crime to kill a president like it is now. So it was just another Texas homicide, even though it was the president. And under Texas law said the autopsy should have been done there in Dallas. Dr. Rose told him that, and they refused to let him do the autopsy. They said, no, get out of the way, we're taking the body back to Washington. And they literally picked him up, according to Dr. McClellan, they literally picked him up and pushed him out of the way at gunpoint, and then got the casket into an ambulance and took it to Love Field, and then they flew the body back to Washington, D.C., where the autopsy was done that night at Bethesda Naval Hospital.
Is it also true that, and I must have missed it over the years or just couldnn remember, but is it also true that there's a lot of documents that's sealed until 2039?
Yes, Lyndon Johnson signed an order that sealed up a lot of the Warren Commission information for whatever reason until for 75 years, which means it comes out to the year 2039. There's some reasons, speculation about why he did that. Of course, that just lends to the conspiracy theory more that there was something there that they didn't want the public to know about for 75 years, and that's why he did that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I find it kind of interesting that they would seal things up for almost a century after it's over with, unless there's some reason to do that. They did it under the reasons of national security, so who knows what was in those documents. Earl Warren, who was the head of the Warren Commission, according to a book that I read, made a quote to one of the people who interviewed him, that the whole story on the assassination would not come out in their lifetime. And that was his exact words. So, who knows what was in those documents.
I watched well, it's not, I guess it is some sort of a documentary, but it was with Jesse Ventura. Uh, and it was a show called Conspiracy Something or Another.
I saw it.
But he had on there E. Howard Hunt's son, who said that his dad had told him that it was indeed a conspiracy before he died.
Yeah, supposedly E. Howard Hunt confessed on his deathbed that the government was in on the conspiracy. CIA had helped kill him along with other people, Cubans, some anti-Catholic Cubans, and some mafia people were supposedly involved in it too.
You would think, and you don't hear much about the assassination at all anymore, except around November when they pay tribute to the president. You would think, like I said earlier, that after all these years, something would fall out of the bag that would shed light on this entire episode, and we would know who, when, where, and why. And I don't think I will see the answer in my lifetime. Do you think it's out there? Do you think there's a key ingredient somewhere?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, we don't know all the truth, that's for sure. You know, there may be a photograph out there, or a movie film out there that we don't know about that's hidden away. I mean, there's just no telling what's locked up that we don't know about. A lot of the files on Oswald have been destroyed. I talked to people who were mixed up with the House Committee in 1977, 78. They were on the committee, and they said that the CIA stonewalled everything they tried to do to get to the bottom of the assassination. So that's why they believe the CIA had something to do with it, because they were totally uncooperative and tried to block them from finding out anything at all. So it's just, we don't know the whole story, unfortunately.
I was always curious why the Warren Commission said that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. It was the magic bullet that did it all. And then years later, another committee was formed, and they said there was a conspiracy, but that's where it stopped, right?
Yes. They thought organized. The committee in the 1970s said that they believed the organized crime was behind the assassination, but they really didn't go any further than that. The committee ran out of money and time, and that's why it got disbanded. So we just kind of got left hanging in the air. They did base the conspiracy conclusion on some acoustics evidence, which has been challenged over the years by other people. I know one of the researchers who was involved with the acoustics personally, and he was telling me that it's very viable and very credible the way it was done. And that according to him, there are 5 distinct gunshot patterns on the acoustics tape that they analyzed. Not 3 shots, not 4, but 5. So, that tends to go to, the conspiracy angle, obviously, because Oswald couldn't have gotten off 5 shots with that kind of a rifle.
In your book, you had the man behind the fence on the grassy knoll.
Yes.
Someone on the 6th floor of the book depository, and someone on top of another building. What was it, the records building or something of that sort?
Yes, that's a speculation. I mean, I don't know if there was a sniper on the records building, but a lot of researchers think there might have been.
I watched on that same show that I mentioned with Jesse Ventura, where he actually tried to duplicate and get the rounds off in 6 seconds with the same type of rifle that Oswald used.
Right.
And he only got, I think he got 3 shots off. His best time was something like 8 point something or another.
Right. And he was a Navy SEAL who was an expert shot, or qualified as an expert shot, from what I understand.
And I guess there's been multiple people, expert shots, that have tried the same thing over and over and over again, and they still can't get it down with that particular weapon to 6 seconds, can they?
Right. It's interesting that a lot of the Marines who served with Lee Harvey Oswald in the Marine Corps were interviewed over the years, and to a man, everybody who was interviewed told researchers that Oswald was a lousy shot on the firing range, that he couldn't even hit stationary targets when they watched him shoot. And they said that there's no way this man could have become that good of a shot and killed Kennedy in a moving limousine when he couldn't even hit a stationary target on a rifle range.
I like the way you had it in your book, where in your book, Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't even at the window. He was in the lunchroom.
Well, that's based on a lot of hard evidence. There was a woman who was an employee of the book depository that signed an affidavit the day of the shooting that said that she saw Oswald in the lunchroom around 12:15 because there was a clock on the wall in the lunchroom. That's how she knew what time it was. The only problem is that outside in the plaza, before the motorcade arrived, other people were watching the book depository waiting for the motorcade, and the Hertz rent-a-car sign, which was on top of the book depository, it's not there anymore. But on the day of the assassination, there was a Hertz rent-a-car sign that flashed the time and temperature, and people remember seeing the time around 12:15, and they noticed a man in the sixth floor window with a rifle who was already up there waiting, and they thought he was a Secret Service or an FBI man. So a sniper was already being seen by people outside in the plaza at the same time. Oswald supposedly being seen on the second floor lunchroom or in the second floor lunchroom.
If you hear a siren in the background, Jack, that's not the police coming after us. That's the fire whistle going off. When you were doing your book and researching it and talking to real live witnesses and finding out all these details and facts, were there times that you just wanted to jump out of your skin because you knew that there's an answer somewhere?
Well, sure. I mean, when you do your own research into this thing and you talk to people who are standing there and you talk to doctors and you look at the photographic evidence and you really get immersed in this thing, it's obvious to anybody, that there had to be more than one shooter. I mean, there's no way one guy could have done this. So it does kind of upset you a little bit because you know for a fact now that, there was more to it than what the government's been telling us. And so it just kind of leaves a sick feeling in your stomach.
Old Lee Harvey Oswald.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Lee Harvey Oswald. I can't get it. I was in the Marine Corps. He was there before I was, but nonetheless, I can't get it. I never could get it right in my head whether he was or whether he wasn't working with the CIA.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because there's a book that came out recently by a man named Douglas called JFK and the Unspeakable. It's a fantastic book. I recommend it very highly. He brings out a lot of hard documentation that shows Oswald was probably working for the CIA when he went over to Russia. It's all in his book. If you read the book, you'll see what he's talking about. People in Japan that were interviewed that were connected with the CIA said it was well known at the time that Oswald had been recruited by the CIA to go to Russia. A lot of people suspected from the years that Oswald went to Russia, not as a defector, but as a spy for the CIA. That's why he was over there. It's amazing how a guy like Oswald, who's supposed to be a communist, gets inside the Soviet Union without any help and gets out of the Soviet Union without almost any help. That just defies probability. I mean, how does a guy get out of a country like that back at that time period during the Cold War without somebody helping him?
What was he, to the best of your knowledge, was he really a smart guy or not?
Well, people that knew him said he was fairly intelligent. He learned the Russian language pretty well because he spoke it fluently. So, you can't be stupid and learn Russian. That's a pretty difficult language to learn.
I've just never been able to, and I guess there's a lot of people. Give me the name of that book again that you mentioned, Jack.
It's called JFK and the Unspeakable by James Douglas. It's a nonfiction book. It's an excellent book.
Okay. I remember the Sunday morning. It was, 11 something, 20 minutes after 11 Central Time. And it was 12:20 our time. And I grew up in Pennsylvania. I remember we had come home from church, walked into the living room, and turned the television on. And there, that's the first time that we had ever seen a real live event, real time, take place. And we stood and we watched as Jack Ruby moved in and shot Oswald. This Oswald, and in your book, the way you portray it, it just makes sense. Is there a lot of facts behind that?
Well, yes. All the research throughout the years has proven that Ruby was connected with organized crime. He came from Chicago originally, and he even told people that he knew that the mafia or organized crime figures had come in and helped set him up in business in Dallas. He ran the strip clubs here, the Carousel Club in Dallas, and the first people that visited Ruby after he killed Oswald as a jail there in Dallas were organized crime figures. They have Ruby's phone records in the weeks before the assassination that show that he was receiving phone calls from top-level mobsters around the United States. So, there's definitely an organized crime connection with Ruby that you can't deny. There was a documentary called The Men Who Killed Kennedy years ago where one of the dispatchers was interviewed, and he said that a man called on Saturday night, the night before Oswald was killed, and told he wouldn't identify himself. He just said that Oswald's going to get killed tomorrow during the transfer if you don't change your plans. And the man said after Ruby killed Oswald that he recognized Ruby's voice the night before as being the man that made that phone call. Now, whether or not that's correct, I don't know, but I'm just repeating what I saw in the documentary. So there's evidence that Ruby had been stalking Oswald that whole week, and he was at the midnight press conference on Friday night in the room there, stalking Oswald. He was in the police headquarters throughout the weekend, going up and down the hallways. They have videotape of him being in the hallways when Oswald's being transferred down the hall. So, he was interested in Oswald. He was there a lot of the time during the weekend.
Do you believe that Ruby was injected with cancer?
That's speculation. I don't know. He supposedly told people that he thought he had been injected with cancer because he came down with lung cancer kind of out of nowhere, and supposedly he didn't smoke cigarettes. Of course, that doesn't prove you can't get lung cancer, but it's usually associated with smoking cigarettes. That's pure speculation. I have no proof that happened. I put it in the book because I thought it was an interesting possibility, but who knows? I mean, I do know that I researched this that the CIA was injecting mice and rats, with cancer pills back in the early 60s in the laboratory, so it's not like they didn't have the capability of doing that. Now, whether or not they actually did it to Ruby, I have no idea.
And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but if there were... Well, I accept the fact that there was more than one shooter. You would, and it just has always amazed me that if there was 1, 2, or 3 shooters, that somewhere along, I mean, some of the best kept secrets in the world have leaked out, but yet this one seems to go with everyone that goes to the grave. They take something with them, and it just leaves me baffled sometimes, almost angry, to wondering why isn't there something after all these years? Why isn't there something that comes out? And since you're a lawyer, it shows us beyond a reasonable doubt of what happened and why it happened.
Well, you take the single bullet theory, for instance. That's one of the cornerstones of the Warren Commission that said that they used to try to prove that one person killed the president. I read the interviews with the doctors who did the surgery on John Connally. I've also seen all the interviews with John Connally that he gave over the years before he died. And Connally was an experienced hunter. He knew the sounds of gunshots, and he testified over and over and over while he was alive that he never agreed with the single bullet theory, that he never agreed that one bullet hit both him and President Kennedy like the Warren Commission insisted. He always said that a separate bullet hit him and a separate bullet hit Kennedy. So, that was his opinion, and if he's correct, then there had to be 2 shooters, not one, firing from the rear, one that hit Kennedy first and one that hit Connally in the back. Besides the bullet that came out, the magic bullet, they've done tests on Mannlicher Carcano ammunition like Oswald was supposed to be using, and they fired bullets into cadaver's wrist. The bullet that went through Connally went through his wrist and shattered his wrist. And every bullet that I've ever seen that was done in a test environment that went through a cadaver's wrist came out flattened out completely, deformed totally, like you would expect a bullet would do when it hits bone. Mm-hmm. Except this bullet somehow comes through Connally's wrist and his ribs and comes out looking almost perfect. And, a lot of people believe that's just impossible.
Did he ever say anything about a shot from the grassy knoll?
John Connally?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge. I don't remember him ever saying anything about a frontal shot. He always talked about the single bullet theory that he disagreed with.
Do you know how many different films was confiscated? How do you say the man's name? Zapruder? There was his film that they confiscated. Do you know how many others?
Well, they didn't confiscate his film. He took it to the Kodak lab and had it developed that afternoon. That's why we have the film. If it had been taken away from him, we might not have ever seen the film.
Okay.
He was one of the few people that got his film out okay. And Beverly Oliver supposedly had the film taken away from her that she never got back. There were some other people who had film that was taken away, or I should say cameras that were taken away, and they never got them back. So, all we have is the Zapruder film and the Nix film. We have a lot of other films, but those are the two best films that show the assassination.
So the ones that they confiscated and never gave back, have they ever been made public, or did they just go away somewhere?
Well, I don't know what happened to the film. I just know the people said that they never got the film back. So, it's speculation about what was done with the film or what the film showed. So it's interesting, though, that they had their film taken from them.
Mm. It's just amazing. It's intriguing.
According to this book I was mentioning a while ago that was written by Mr. Doug, was one of the key witnesses was filming the motorcade from the grassy knoll. A man named Lee Gordon Arnold is his name. And according to this book, a man came up after the shooting and took his film away from him. So if that's true, that's another witness that was saying that they had his film taken away.
On that same Jesse Ventura program, and E. Howard Hunt is talking about the three hobos. I remember, if I remember correctly, if I'm wrong, correct me. It seems to me that I remember when all this was going on that they had arrested or picked up three hobos that was either in a boxcar down at the railroad or making their way down there. Is that true?
That's true. Supposedly the House Committee allegedly identified the three men, and if you believe the House Committee's version, these men were just innocent people that had nothing to do with the assassination. Other people, have looked at their photos and believe that they resemble other individuals besides the ones that the House Committee claimed that they were. So, I'm not prepared to say one way or the other. I don't know if they were innocent or not. I just find it kind of interesting, though, that they were picked up in a boxcar like that right behind the assassination hearing.
Now, I didn't read Bill O'Reilly's book, but from what I understand, it's pretty much just goes along the lines that there was one gunman.
Whose book?
O'Reilly's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've read it. It's a good book in terms of, tracing the Kennedy presidency and Kennedy's life after he became president. I just disagree with his reconstruction of the shooting. He basically says that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter and that there's no conspiracy. And I just have a hard time accepting that after all the years that I've put into this researching, and I just find that to be totally incredible and totally unbelievable.
Do you know if there's any of the detectives or the police officers still alive?
Well, yes, Detective Lavelle is still alive. I've met him before. He was one of the detectives that was escorting Oswald at the time he was killed by Jack Ruby. He's the main one that I'm aware of that's still alive. I'm sure there's probably a few other ones, but he's probably the most important one that I can think of.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to any FBI agents or detectives in the Dallas Police Department?
No, I never did get a chance to talk to any FBI agents. I've met Clint Hill. He was in Dallas this past, I think it was April and May. He was over in Dallas talking about his new book that had come out, and I talked to him real briefly. He now believes that there was only one shooter and that there was no shots from the front, but in his book, though, he describes the back of the president's head being blown away, just like the doctors do, so he seems to be inconsistent here. On the one hand, he tells people when he talks that there was no shooter in the front, but then the description he gives of the wounds when he jumped in the rear of the limousine is that of a shooter shooting from the front because the back of the head's blown out, according to his description.
Yeah, you and I've told people over the years, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand. Excuse me. When the round comes from the right front, it's going to blow the back of your head out.
Well, what's more even substantial proof of a frontal shot is that the police officer who was riding to the left and rear of the limousine when it happened, he got splattered with Kennedy's blood and brain matter from the impact of the shot. And the laws of physics would seem to indicate that a shot from the rear wouldn't have done that. Only a shot from the right front would have blown the brain matter into the same direction as the police officer to the left and rear.
Mm-hmm.
So. And that officer ran up the hill immediately thinking the shot had come from up there, and he smelled gunpowder in the air right behind the knoll. So you've got gunpowder in the air, you've got witnesses saying a shot came from there, you've got bloody footprints where a person had to be standing there, you've got all this circumstantial hard evidence pointing to a shooter up there. So to me it's pretty obvious somebody shot from up there.
Were there any other people in, around, or relatively close to the shooter that was on the knoll?
Well, there were people standing right in front of the fence there when the shot went off, like Bill Newman, who I mentioned earlier, and other witnesses who were standing there that were in the line of fire. But nobody was like right behind the fence, unfortunately. I'm sure the shooter, whoever he was, if he was disguised as a Secret Service agent, which I believe he was, because the police officer who ran up there confronted somebody right after the shooting behind the knoll, and the man said he was a Secret Service agent. He pulled out a Secret Service badge, and the police officer let him go. The only problem is that there were no legitimate Secret Service agents that were up there. They all went to the hospital with the president. So whoever that man was, he was not a legitimate Secret Service man.
When Officer, how do you say his name? Triplet?
Tippit.
When he was killed, do you believe that it was Lee Harvey Oswald or someone else?
I think you can make a compelling case that it may not have been Oswald. I mean, I know there's a lot of witnesses who claim it was Oswald. Some of them couldn't even identify him at a police lineup later that night. So I guess they're so certain he shot Tippit. There was a woman named Aculia Clemens who a researcher named Mark Lane interviewed, and she was threatened by police officers that if she talked about it, she would get killed. And she told Mr. Lane that there were two shooters that killed Tippit. Other witnesses, said there was more than one person involved. They did a test on a documentary where they took the shortest possible route from Oswald's rooming house to the place where Tippit was killed, and they had a guy walk at a fast pace, as fast as you can walk, and he couldn't even get there in time to shoot Tippit. So, I don't know if Oswald killed Tippit or not. I don't know for sure. I mean, I think you can make an argument both ways. I do know the bullets that came out of Oswald's revolver have never been matched up to. The bullets that came out of Tippit's body have never been ballistically matched up to Oswald's rifle. I mean, Oswald's pistol, excuse me. So that's a big problem right there.
Jack, when I'm sitting here thinking, with that many witnesses and that many people that had been threatened by a whole lot of people, I mean, there just seems like there's a whole lot of people. Let's call them the threat squad, whether they were Dallas policemen or FBI, CIA, whoever. There seems to be a lot of the threat squad running around. And you would think that with that many people running around threatening people and that many people getting threatened, that somebody would say something.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence, George, that proves a conspiracy, in addition to what I've already talked about for the last 45 minutes, was an incident that happened in late September of '63. A woman named Sylvia Odio, who I believe she's still alive in Dallas today, she testified before the Warren Commission, she testified before the House Committee. She's never changed her story. She was a Cuban woman who lived in Dallas at the time, and she said that three men showed up at her apartment one night in late September of '63. Two of them were Cubans and one was an American. And the leader of the group was a Cuban that called himself Leopoldo, and the other Cuban he introduced as Angelo, and the third man they introduced as Leon Oswald, not Lee, but Leon Oswald. And she got a good look at all their faces because they were standing under a light in front of her apartment there at night, and they were there to try to get her to help them, give them money to fight Castro, and she told them she couldn't help them, and then they left. And the next day, the leader of the group called on the telephone and said, what did you think about our American friend? And she said, I don't know anything about him. And the guy said, well, he's an expert shot. He's a former Marine. He's kind of crazy, kind of nutty. And he said that we Cubans didn't have any guts, that we should have killed Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs. And then he hung up the phone. And then she didn't think any more about it until the day of the assassination when she saw Oswald on television. And she recognized Oswald as the man that was with him that night, as the American who was with those two Cubans that night. So if she's correct about Oswald being with those two Cubans, then you have a link there between two anti-Castro Cubans, who one of them who called up and started talking about killing Kennedy the next day. And then, this supposedly Oswald's with these two guys. So what is Lee Harvey Oswald doing associating with these men, a couple months before the assassination, unless there's something going on?
It's an intriguing book, Jack. And ladies and gentlemen, you really need to get it. The Man from 2063. It's got a tremendous approach to it. And then when you get into it, you just can't put it down. The Man from 2063 by Jack Duffy. Jack, give us your website and where we can get this again.
The website is themanfrom2063.com, and the book is available through Barnes & Noble. It's also available on Amazon.com, and it's available through the publisher, TatePublishing.com. That's T like in Tom, T-A-T-E, Publishing.com. So those are the three ways you can get the book right now.
I thank you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
thankfully the lights stayed on and the internet service stayed up, and Sandy stayed outside. So I thank you very, very much. We didn't have a chance because of the storm, and we were doing so many other different things today to put anything up on our news page. But when this thing quiets down, I'll put some stuff up there, your website, and where they can get the book, so on and so forth. So I apologize that we didn't get it up today.
Thank you, George. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, sir, and I hope you can go back again.
All righty.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye. One of the most intriguing subjects, that you will ever come across, the assassination of JFK. If you've never researched it, or if you don't know anything about it, it'd be a good thing to get into. It is intriguing. Well, as we mosey along our way, doing the radio show, and Sandy outside, as long as Sandy stays outside, we're happy. Even if she blows the lights out, that'd be all right. But as long as she stays on the outside, we are very happy. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we're going to stick around a little while. I mean, why not? The lights are on. We still got internet service. We're going to stick around. But before that, to all of our friends, neighbors, people up and down the East Coast that's being hammered right now by this monstrous storm, and for those that it'll be arriving on your doorstep soon, and those that are inland, and those that are going to get snow or already have snow, and it's just all freaky anyhow. Our prayers and best wishes are with you and with everyone else. And I thank you for all the kind words and the comments and the prayers that have been offered from friends far and wide. Even our friends over there in the UK and Italy sent some kind words to us today, and we appreciate that. So far, we're all safe. I won't say I'm sound, but everyone else is sound and in their right mind. I'm a little out there, as you know, but nonetheless, it has been a what's the word? It's been a different last 2 or 3 days, and I guess we got another day of this thing hanging on. I guess she just don't want to go too far away from us, but things are underwater and things are blowing down. But the main thing is the houses are standing up where we're at, and Sandy is still on the outside. I'll be right back after this.
There's a dance we all can do the gator. Doing it is good for you. Do the gator. Like we did in 65. It makes you feel so alive. So do the gator. The alligator. Get out on the floor and dance with me. Alligator, alligator, alligator. Get down on your back and kick your feet. Alligator, alligator, alligator. Do it. The alligator, 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 alligator. Yeah, we can do it all night long. Do the gator. You'll survive if you are strong. Do the gator. You can always dance some more if you just get down on the floor and do the gator, the alligator. Yeah, get out on that floor and dance with me. Alligator, alligator, alligator. And get down on your back and kick your feet. Alligator, alligator, alligator. Just do it. The alligator, 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 yeah. Alligator. alligator, 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 and get down on your back and kick your feet. Alligator, 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 just do it. The alligator, 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 get out on that floor and dance with me. Alligator, 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 get down on your back and kick your feet. Alligator, 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 so do it. The alligator, 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 get down on that floor and dance with me. Alligator, 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 get down on that floor and dance with me. Alligator, alligator, alligator.
We want to thank Jack Duffy one more time for coming and being our guest. He's the man that wrote the book, The Man from 2063. And you can go to his website at, let me find it here real quick, themanfrom2063.com. Themanfrom2063.com by Jack Duffy. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and if you go to his website, themanfrom2063.com, you can read all about it and find out exactly where you can get it. And I would recommend that everyone gets a copy of this book. It is intriguing. Perhaps it would be the first book you ever read about the Kennedy assassination. It would be a good one to start with. And I like the way he approached the whole thing. Fascinating. So thank you very, very much, Jack. In addition, let me get this little gadget up here. Let me say that if you're still awake at 11 p.m. Central Time, let's see, that would be, 12 p.m., midnight our time, tune in to the Johnny Storm Show. And tonight on the Johnny Storm Show, you'll have Kevin Benson from Kevin Benton Ministries, his best-selling book, A Field Trip to Hell, where he experienced the 30 torments of hell firsthand without having to stay for eternity, will be the subject of Johnny's show. And they'll also talk about the failures of the modern-day church in America, how to develop your faith. It's a great story, so tune in. 11 p.m. Central Time, right here on Spreaker.com. When you get to Spreaker.com, just go up there in the little search box and type in the Johnny Storm Show, and it will pop up and you can go right to it. That's 11 p.m. Central Time, the Johnny Storm Show. So make sure you tune in. There's so many good shows here on the Spreaker Network. It's endless. It's absolutely endless. Endless. I get it. So much going on here with the storm, and we've got the Weather Channel on. It's been on continually. Excuse me. Radios have been on, and here's someone that's not far from us. No electricity again. Frank is cooking dinner by candlelight. Isn't that romantic? I'm ready for bed. I hope Austin is too. Frank's cooking dinner by candlelight, and Katrina's ready for bed. Let's see. What do we got here? Pictures, lots of pictures. The people sending in, and then are on their Facebook page. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're just happy to be able to program or broadcast tonight from the Funny Farm.
But I gotta get you home before the morning light. And someone comes along are you? I can't wait for August so we can pursue the same kind of love that we had that night, lying on the sand under the big moonlight. But someone came along and had to spoil the mood. You moved away, it's just an interlude to love.
Tomorrow night, my goodness, can you believe that tomorrow is, the 30th? The 30th of October already? Goodness gracious, Aunt Sally. Anyhow, tomorrow night, a man by the name of Dave Moore will be with us. And he has a very interesting story to tell us. Fascinating story to tell us. And I know that you'll want to hear it. If I can get, reach over here and get the book. It's called, let me get it. I got it. The Father's Love. Amid a frantic search for his son, the father finds his faith. And he searched. And he searched. And he searched. And it is an intriguing book. And he has an interesting story to tell us. So tomorrow night, The Father's Love by Dave Moore. He will be with us live here on the Funny Farm at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So make sure that you tune in. If we sound like we're a little rickety and raggedy, it's probably because we're a little rickety and raggedy. We're listening to the wind outside and the rain and all those things that's taking place. Excuse me. But we sure thank you for tuning in and being with us tonight. Wow. This day seems like there was 2 days. I guess when you're cooped up, like most of us are along the East Coast, the days just seem longer than they really are. You know something else? I don't know about you, but all I've been doing is eating and eating and eating. If you know, you're cooped up, it's against the law. We're in a state of emergency, so you can't go driving around like you'd want to because of the dangers, naturally. So you're cooped up. You can only watch so much television. And while you're watching television, you are looking for the food, eating the food. You can only read so long. And while you're reading, you're munching on something or another. You can hang out on the computer and do the work that needs to be done. But while you're doing that, you get hungry, so you munch on something else. And then you just get up and go eat something. So it seems like all I have been doing is eating. If this thing don't soon get over with, I'll weigh 300 pounds. Won't be able to fit out the front door. Hopefully, it will be over in the next 24, 48 hours, and we can go do what we have to do and get back to our normal routine, which won't upset most of us around here one bit. Okay. Sorry we didn't put anything up on the news page today, but due to the fact that Sandy was coming, we was, making way for her. Seems that she has all the attention right now, but we'll get back to it. We haven't posted anything on the Espen blog lately due to the fact that we can't find ourselves half the time here at the Funny Farm. Everyone's doing well. Everyone's doing fine. Charlie, he doesn't like the hurricane. Chloe, she can't see nor can she hear, so she don't know what's going on other than she can sense things. But everyone is we're high and we're dry. Of course, we don't have no hills where we're at. Everything's flat, but we're dry, and everyone is safe and sound. And so I'll just shut up. Wasn't that nice? We want to thank our friends from musicalley.com. That's musicalley.com, because some of the music that we play tonight and every night comes from musicalley.com. And we thank them from the bottom of our little pea-picking heart, as Tennessee Ernie Ford used to say. Did he say that? Pea-picking heart? Yeah. From my little pea-picking heart. Okay. I never knew my heart picked peas. But anyways, what was I going to say? See, I get to running off at the mouth, and then I forget what I was going to say. And then I blame it on all kind of things, but I was running my mouth. What was I going to say? Oh, wait a minute, it's coming to me. I think it's coming. I think it's coming. I wait a minute, I think it's coming. I think it's coming.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
That wasn't it. Charlie, you're messing with me again. Dadgummit. It was something about the show. Oh. We made this announcement last week sometimes, and we tested it out. I don't know. It must have been Thursday night's show. Yeah, Thursday night show. I think Thursday night we had a guest scheduled. The guest wasn't able to show up, and we flying by the seat of our pants. So we tested out our Skype, and we now have Skype available that you can come on the show, and people everywhere and anywhere can hear you, and you can interact with us besides just the chat room. So you can give us a call. Unfortunately, tonight we don't have the Skype availability up, so because of the storm and all those other things. But we have it up, and each show we will tell you when the Skype availability is on, and you can call us at George.Espenlaub. George.Espenlaub. That's Espenlaub. George.Espenlaub. So, hopefully, Sandy will be somewhere else tomorrow night when we come on the air, and we'll be able to have things together along with our guest, and we can have the Skype up, the chat room, and hopefully we'll get some calls from somewhere in this great big world. That's George.Espenlaub. Espenlaub. And so you can Skype me. Don't scalp me. Skype me. Along with that, we've got some great things planned. As soon as we can get ourselves together again, stop being so raggedy. But we've got some great things planned, and I hope that you'll continue to hang in there with us.
chicken with a hoe.
If I could travel back in time tonight, I wouldn't waste a second more. I know that's quite an ironic thing to say when you're contemplating time travel. If I could travel back in time tonight, I know exactly what I'd do. I would be standing on your doorstep, baby, singing these words, shouting into you, saying, stay with me. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? Now, if I could make a list and check it twice and just forget the Santa Claus, I would be flying back across the years and standing at your door, because I'm moving a little faster than the speed of light. As Albert raises one eyebrow, I would be knocking on your door again, baby, singing these words, shouting them out, saying, stay with me. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? Every once in a while your heart gets wondering how your life might have been if you'd have made a left instead of taking that right. Well, go ahead and wander, it ain't no sin now. Stay with me. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh, baby, won't you stay with me? If I could travel back in time tonight, I know exactly where I'd go. Driving across the years down dusty roads that take me to your door, because it's taking forever just to realize exactly what I should have said. But in a moment I'm back at your door, singing the words that echo in my head. Stay with me, oh baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Stay with me. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Stay with me. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Stay with me. Oh baby, won't you stay with me? Because I'm begging, please. Oh baby, won't you stay with me?
And once again, we want to thank our friends from musicalley.com, excuse me, for being with us night after night and supplying some of the music that we play here on the George Espinlove Show. And we want to thank our guest one more time, Jack Duffy, out of Dallas, Fort Worth area in Texas. He wrote the book, The Man from 2063. It's all about the assassination of JFK, November 22nd, 1963. Get his book. Go to the website. The website is the same as the book, The Man from 2063, themanfrom2063.com. And there you can purchase the book. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. And we thank him one more time for taking time out of his very busy schedule and being with us on the George Espinlove Show. Very good book. I recommend it. Everyone should get it and read it. So we did all the thank yous, and it looks like we're going to ride this little puppy out of here and see what's going on. I can hear what's going on, but I want to go take a peek and see what's going on. It's been good. It's been good. I'm so glad that the power stayed on, the internet server stayed up. I'm so glad we could come on the air tonight. My. Besides, we were getting antsy around here anyhow. Wherever you're at, especially if you're on the east coast of this country, I wish you the best. Hold on. Hang on tight. We'll get through this thing, and hopefully in the next 24, 48 hours, this thing will get out of here, and we can clean up and get back to what is supposed to be some kind of normalcy. Of course, I don't know what that word means, but anyhow, I want to thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow night, same time, same station, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Tune in to the George Espinlove Show, and we'll have with us a man who wrote the book, The Father's Love, by Dave Moore. He will be our guest tomorrow night. Wow. Wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, if you're going through the storm, just remember, it won't storm all the time. We'll come out the other side, and hopefully the sun will be shining, the birds will be singing, and we'll get ourselves together again. But wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, remember there's a whole lot of love coming to you from the Funny Farm. So, if it's nighttime where you're at, have a good night. If it's already tomorrow, have a good day. And until tomorrow night, same time, same station, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here on the Spreaker Network. This is George Espinlove saying good night, stay safe, God bless you.